I am thrilled about our guest today, Jessica Alba. We're going to be talking to her about being a mom of three, starting a company. I feel like I use something from Honest Company every single day, and it's because I do. I have all my diapers from her and from Honest, not from her. But I'm so excited to talk to her. We're going to you guys submitted amazing questions, so I'm really happy about that. And I am going to send her a, hopefully that works. Again, if you hear some babbling in the background, my daughter is right outside the door. So sorry about that.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I love the lip today.
Oh, thanks. With the dark hair, I feel like I need to wear like more color.
I know. I
So
felt like that when I feel like we're also maybe wearing the same shirt, but
I think we are.
okay, good. Thank God. I always felt that with my darker hair, like you have to change up your makeup as well with it.
Yeah, to like brighten the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, it's always
How are
important.
you
But I love
doing?
it. I'm so great. How are you? I was just saying that I literally feel like I use something from Honest every day, but it's actually just because I do. So I feel like I have like some sort of a Jessica Alba moment every single day, which is amazing
Amazing.
as a new
For
mom,
me.
truly. I mean, because I think like for so
I hope
long,
it's a good experience.
no, it's an amazing experience. I only use all the diapers. I've also started only using your mascara, which I'm wearing today. I mean, I feel like I'm
Nice.
constantly discovering something new. So I'm so excited to be talking to you not only about motherhood and being a mom of three, which is crazy, but also just about Honest and how you balance it all, because a lot of the questions that came in from people were mainly just about how you do it all, how you balance it all. So I want to talk a little bit about all of that. But first, what it's like to be a mother of three. I mean, it's something I ask my mom all the time about being a mom of four,
I
like how
actually
you,
asked your mom too before I had A's. I remember saying like how, and also just being she was like a working woman,
right.
and your dad worked full time as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so having two people that work full time, like how the heck do you do this?
Yeah.
And she, I always felt like she just never like let go of her ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think that's so hard to like focus and still like put yourself first in a lot of ways, but then also raise children. So I think that's really cool. Anyway, I think that the man raising kids is really hard,
Yeah.
and I don't think it's for the faint of heart. For me, it's been this like journey of like self discovery and self reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And then it really gave me, I think, a, a clear perspective on purpose.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that I mean, I'm just almost a year into it, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself and also just changes that I want to make in my life, how I want to live my life, what you dedicate time for, and the people that you also spend time with.
Yeah.
But it's
There's
also,
a lot of like editing.
yes.
There's like a lot of editing that happens because just the transition from the natural narcissism that comes along with being single, right? Or
Mhm.
not having to, outside of having a dog, really.
Yeah,
For me,
which
that
is a
was my
great
only
first
other,
step.
yeah, that was like my only other experience of like, this is a thing that I need to keep alive. And,
Yeah.
you know, but outside of that, like, I don't know, there's not a lot of other experiences that are quite like it, where you're really like someone is completely dependent on you for their
Mhm.
well-being.
Yeah.
And, you have the power to create an environment for them to either like thrive
Mhm.
or not,
Yeah.
and that is completely your choice.
Yeah.
And they are sort of a product or on the receiving end of it, right? It's not like, yeah, it's interesting because
Yeah. It's
My
also
first two were surprises. They weren't plans. You know. I don't
that's
know
amazing.
how it went for you, but my first two were surprises.
That's
So
the, well, I mean, they also like they all seem like they get along really well, which I do they not? I mean, boys
I
and girls,
mean,
which ones seem like they're fighting?
all of them argue, all of them fight. I would say Hayes and Honor antagonizes the little ones because she can.
Yeah, yeah.
And
The
she's
job
sort
of
of
an
like,
oldest.
and she's like, you interrupted my life. Like, she was like, I was everything to these people. And then both of you just come in and invade my home and invade my time, my space. And so, you know, she's funny. There's a big enough age gap
Right.
between all of them. But yeah, they fight. All of them fight. I would say Haven and Honor get into it the most. And they go through phases of like, being super tight and super close, and they're like, you know, totally getting along, and they're like, we're gonna do girls night tonight, you know, just they're like, so don't expect us to like watch TV with you and dad, you know, like we're gonna do our thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then other times it's like, I can't stand her, you know.
But what's
And
their
they're
age
yelling at
difference?
each other. They're like 3.5 years apart.
Okay, so like my sister and I are a year and a half apart, and we did the exact same thing. Like you fight over clothes, that was a
Yep.
phase. Then the fighting over friends was another phase. It's like there's always something, but I also never had that as an oldest child. I feel like the oldest child, your job is to just keep everybody in line and check and be the boss. But I never had that as only being a year and a half old when Christina was born. I never had that kind of feeling of like, oh, you invaded my life. I guess it was probably subconscious from what
Yeah.
I'm told by my parents. But
Yeah,
it
100%.
is it's also hard, I think, and this is something I also asked my mom, and maybe you also asked her that, but it's the idea of also having these three different people for you and for my mom four, but you know, also how do you find the time to make your relationship unique with each of them,
Yeah.
because they don't like the same things, they want to do things differently.
Yeah, you all are very different people, right? Every
Mm-hmm.
soul, it functions in its own kind of way. And I would say like, yeah, it's weird because it is a new way of parenting,
Mm-hmm.
because how I think I was raised, or sort of like the dynamics of how children were treated when I was growing up, and even my parents, was, you know, the kids basically speak when they're spoken to.
Right.
You know, they have the kid table
Mm-hmm.
whenever there's a family gathering, and you just sort of like stay out of the way and do what you're told.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think this new way of parenting is like, you really they want to be seen and heard as individuals, basically as soon as they start having any kind of consciousness or thoughts or opinions. And it starts early. I think I take the approach of like making sure that they understand boundaries and respect, but trying to see them each individually and meet them where they are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like my 13-year-old, I'm struggling with not treating her like a little, like I want to treat them all like babies. Like I want to baby them. My tendency is to parent them as if they're little. And
Mm-hmm.
my 13-year-old, for the last, I started going to therapy with her when I was like, I think when she was 11 is when we did it. We
That's
did
so
it for a little bit.
amazing.
And for me, it was really out of like I felt like my relationship really suffered with my parents because they didn't know how to communicate with me, and how I like needed to be parented, right? And so I didn't want that breakdown with Honor. So we went to therapy together, and she really, I think, felt empowered to find her voice, speak her voice, and own her opinions in a way, and really gain a lot of confidence to like say like, hey mom, like I like this, I don't like this. Like when you need to guide me, or when I screw up or whatever, she's like, this is how I want to be punished, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I respond to, this is what I don't respond to in that way. But then on the flip, it's like, you need to spend more time with me alone without Haven around. It
Right.
was like a big one.
Yeah.
And you need to treat me like I'm me and she's her, but you can't like mush us together.
Right.
And
That's
so, yeah, that was like, I have to say, I kind of still struggle with that.
my mom would probably say the exact same thing about Christina and I, but I think it's also such a huge gift to be giving your daughter and also just your guys' relationship to be able to start that kind of open dialogue at such an early age because it's true, especially as you go into a teenager in this world that we're living in, and also you're raising kids in LA, which is really challenging. To be able to have open dialogue and open communication with your child, and then on top of it, a daughter, is so important. And it's such a gift to be able to have that this early on in your guys' relationship where she feels comfortable to talk to you about certain things. You feel like it's a safe place to talk to her, and then the whole journey of separating your two girls, I feel like is going to be a lifelong thing. Like there are still moments with Christina and I'm 31, like want to have this time with your mom that's different than what you do with another child. So it is, I mean, it's a total journey, but it's an important one because as you're saying, it's like this form of parenting of, doing something unique with each one of your kids is such an important thing.
Yeah, and I would say, and I haven't started this practice yet. I have a hard time with consistency, so that's another thing that I'm working on. I'm telling you all my fails in life. Not really
Love
consistent.
it.
But my therapist was like, "What if you just carve out like 30 minutes a week?" Where you, with each child, they get to choose what that is that you do
Mm-hmm.
together and undivided attention, and you schedule it. So
Mm-hmm.
then they're looking forward to it. Because I'm like, I do spend time with them. I don't have my phone. I'm doing whatever it is they want to do, but they don't like necessarily, it doesn't feel like special time. So
Right.
it's not just doing sort of well, we ate dinner together and we did homework together and, going through the motions of day to day, but like we're going to carve out 30 minutes. We're going to do whatever you want and we're going to schedule it. And then that's going to be our special time. And maybe it ends up being an hour and a half or 3 hours or 5, but just like setting aside that 30 minutes. I don't know if I can spend 5 hours playing trucks with Hayes, not gonna lie. So I'm like, trying to make it fair. Like, let's start with 30 minutes and
Yeah.
then it can
Work
become
our
whatever
way.
it becomes. But then they feel like they're getting that special one-on-one time. And it would be great if each parent, could do it.
Yeah, I mean, especially during this time where it seems like a lot of there isn't a schedule per se, to be able to have that for your child to like look forward to something, I think is such a great gift. But then on top of having your three children that you're scheduling this time, you also are married and have a husband who's, doing his thing.
Yeah, that one is
So,
special. Very
yeah.
special. That trying to do that one. If you figured it out in your relationship, let me know. You
I
know.
mean, but it is one of the most popular questions that we got for you was just really like how you balance having three kids, of course, having a huge career and empire to run, all of that, and then also a marriage and, making sure your husband feels tended to.
Uh,
Tell us
I
how.
just, I think that he probably gets the short end of the stick.
Right.
Not, I would say and it's not even him. I would say it's us, right? Because it's when I'm seeing him and spending time with him and we're like really like enjoying each other, it's an us thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it feeds me as well. It's hard. It's impossible because I would say after the first, it's all rosy for 2.5 years. But then
Mm-hmm.
after that, you become roommates. And it's just like you're roommates. You're just going through the motions. You have the responsibilities. It's a lot of like checking the boxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we used to do like every Wednesday, we're going to do date night,
Mm-hmm.
and or every week, we're going to set aside a time. We're going to at least do date night, right? We won't have our phones and we'll just like talk. But then that stopped because of whatever,
Right.
and so we're just not consistent. But I would say that being able to communicate when you're unhappy and nipping it right away instead of letting it sort of like fester. And then you have like, you know, animosity, and then it explodes, which we've gone through that one too. We've been together for like, we're on 17 years. So
oh my gosh, I didn't realize you guys have been together for that long.
yeah, he basically stole my 20s and my 30s.
Oh my
Took them
God.
from me completely.
That's amazing though.
So we have like, obviously, like the friendship, the comfort of like, you're not going anywhere. And so sometimes you don't treat those people the best, right? You don't consider their feelings in the way that you would consider other people's feelings. So that is something that I think is a constant one to work on, because you're at different places, right? One night a week, date night might be enough.
Yeah.
At some point of your life, but it may not be enough, you know, in a month.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think
you might need something else.
Yeah. It's also like when you're talking about, you know, going through the motions or being a roommate, it's also about like how you not to like lose yourself in those moments of going through kids' schedules or going through all the things to talk about when you're together of like, I need to hit this and go through this. And there's, you know, it's like an agenda.
You can't, right? Yeah. It's like that date night or that time is when you really shouldn't talk about the annoying stuff that you talk about during the week anyway, right? Yeah. It is the time to sort of like get past that and check in a different way. But it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I mean, I don't know anybody who says that it's easy, and especially, you know, the more kids that you have and also the more work that you have going on and different aspects of life, it makes it, of course, more challenging. And so yeah, it's always interesting also just to learn from other people's experiences and also being gentle with yourself and your relationship in the process, because it's a work in it's
a life journey, and I think like if you're both every day deciding to do it, it's gonna work out, regardless of the drama, right? Regardless of anything that happens. If you're both like, I want this, I want to figure this out, nothing can really like break that.
Yeah.
The second one of you is checked out, then it's a one-sided relationship.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to be on the same page. And you're not always going to grow at the same pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And you should be able to like have different interests and blossom and evolve, you know, how you need to, and you should feel supported, right? By your person and not held back or pulled down. And I would say that's something that Cash and I have done. He's a serial entrepreneur, and you know, he's on his third business, and Honest was my first business. And he, you know, we're very ambitious people, and we're always doing a lot of things. And I would say we always support each other, and we're always there for each other. And you know, no idea. We don't try to like break each other's spirits, right?
Yeah.
As the other one, even if I'm like, oh, he's growing, he's doing something else, he has other interests, this is different than how it was. Instead of feeling threatened by it, I am like, okay, you know, like what is exciting to him now? Like, what is he interested in, or why is he passionate about that? More curiosity, right?
Right.
So
that was always something my parents told me was before I got married, is that you always want to be each other's biggest cheerleader. And I think that, you know, that's something that's been super important to Chris and I as well, is always being, you know, with whatever it is that you're passionate about or that you're doing currently, that you're, you know, there being the person's biggest cheerleader for whatever it is, that their business endeavor or a job or whatever it is, to just be there to encourage.
Or even like spiritual journey or a hobby or whatever it is, you know, it's like, don't crush their spirit if you're not necessarily growing at the same pace or it feels new.
What do you think is the most surprising thing you've learned since becoming a mom? Now that you have a teenager. Crazy.
feel like I didn't really understand the nooks and crannies of the complexity of feelings and relationship dynamics. I was a pretty sort of like black or white kind of person. Like it was either a go or it was a stop. It was either good or it was bad. Like it was, I lived in a very like, it was like polar opposites, like extremes. And that was my mental, probably how I survived and my like, you know, sort of way that I became a successful person at a young age and all of that, was just being so like focused. And that was the way I dealt with it. But after having kids, I learned about the gray area.
Yeah.
and just, yeah, I was never like, I had a hard time being vulnerable. And I didn't, you know, my family, you know, they were raised in a pretty traditional way. And I think, you know, there wasn't a lot of space held for vulnerability. And so going on this journey of finding my vulnerability and being okay, but then still being like a strong person and successful and feeling connected to myself instead of vulnerability being like a weakness. It's actually a strength.
I love that. That's so beautiful to be able to have that as being your takeaway so far. You had mentioned before teaching your kids about boundaries, and I think that that's such an important thing with children, but also just in life in general. And how old was Honor when you launched Honest Company?
She was 3.5. I mean, I was raising money for my seed round when I was 7.5 months pregnant with Haven, 8 months pregnant with Haven. Basically, it was like, you can't fly after this. And, you know, I was like, okay, but I just needed to get that money. And this was my shot, you know. So we went to Sand Hill Road and pitched to all the VCs, and we got like 5 term sheets out of the 6 that we pitched, which was cool for our seed funding.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. Did you ever think, because it's interesting since I am in my first year of motherhood and doing these conversations, being interested and kind of open to this whole world of motherhood and what, you know, what's talked about online and having, you know, amazing conversations with people like yourself just to learn more as a new mom, and then also just have conversations about things people want to know about. But did you ever see yourself before becoming a mom being in the space that you're in right now with Honest Company?
I did. I never would have become an entrepreneur. I don't think, if I wasn't a mom.
Yeah.
I mean, Honor 100% inspired me to create this company because I never thought about my health, but then more importantly, her health. You know, I was like, okay, I can't help what I was exposed to, you know, my whole life through whatever was in my environment. But I'm going to make sure that this kid has a better shot, because I was so sick as a kid. And so much of my illness, you know, my health issues were attached to what was in my environment. You could literally see welts form on my body, my throat close, when I was exposed to certain chemicals and pesticides. Like, even when I was growing up, I literally thought I was allergic to every fruit and vegetable. And little did I know, it was just I was allergic to the pesticides that were on the fruits and vegetables. My throat would close like every time. And I would take steroids. I would take my breathing machine because I was like, I just want to have strawberries, you know, like, or I just want to have an orange. And I wanted to play soccer and I wanted to play baseball, and I was so allergic to grass and all these things. So, and cleaners, every cleaner that was in the house, like all of it. So, once I learned for myself, I just sort of eliminated things, but I didn't think too much about it until I had Honor. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're all being exposed to all these things. And not only are people getting like terrible reactions like me, you know, eczema and rashes and throat closing and all of this stuff, but people are getting cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and people are having learning disabilities, and they're linking like early puberty, and like it's really screwing up the way people's bodies are developing.
Yeah.
That's wild. And just the fact that there wasn't really government oversight to protect us. And when I went and lobbied on Capitol Hill, they were like, well, is this a liberal issue or a conservative issue? And I was like, it's a human issue.
Yeah.
This is a human thing. Like, what? And so, that's, I think, just out of like justice, like social justice, and my desire to want things to be fair. I have this
Right.
like thing about fairness, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
that I've always had as a little, since I was small. And I just felt like it just wasn't fair, and it needed to be better, and people should have not only the education that they can do better, but then have an alternative where they weren't compromising,
Yeah.
on whether something was going to work, because
Yeah.
it shouldn't smell like salad dressing in your house if, because you want to clean with a natural cleaner, right? Or you should be able to get those stains out on your laundry, or the makeup should actually have a pigment instead of just layers of dirt on your face,
Yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah.
So,
It's so incredible just to think about all the different, that it started with one thing and now you have all these different lines as part of your company. It's incredible. And when you were doing this pregnant and with a child as well, and then starting a company is a baby in itself. And you,
right.
yeah. So it's like there was, you had plenty going on. Was there ever a time where you really struggled with the boundaries and balancing everything and, prioritizing your kids or focusing on your company? Like that part of being a mom is so challenging. And then starting all of that with these two humans and then this other baby it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. But I guess I was so focused on the social justice piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt like if I'm going to die tomorrow, right? You never know what's going to happen. At least I'm trying to do better, right? Building a company around values and ethics versus what all of the other companies are built around, just like bottom line profits. What's the quickest, shortest, easiest way to make the most money? And that's it. And I was like, gosh, I really think that you can infuse ethics and values and you can make money. I really felt like those two things can converge. So it just felt like it needed to be done. And I think that's why I had a fearlessness when I did it. And I guess I felt like my kids would be okay. I felt like my kids would be okay because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be perfect, right? And I'm not going to have all the answers. And you can read many parenting books, and what works for Honor does not work for Haven, does not work for Hayes, and vice versa. Like they are so different.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they can see that I'm trying. I'm trying to do better, and I'm trying to make the world a little bit better, not just for them, but for everyone.
Yeah.
And so that to me helped me probably with my 7-day a week sort of work ethic and my relentless pursuit to push through every wall, every barrier, every challenge that I've had to face.
Yeah, I mean, the mom guilt thing is definitely something that I think comes up so much that I've heard, I've felt, but also have heard so much of it since becoming a mom myself. And did you ever feel, I mean, I'm sure you've had moments of feeling it, especially now with 3 children.
Of course.
How do you deal with that?
All the time. I don't know. I mean, I think you have like a good cry and you drink a glass of wine if that's your medicine, or have a bath. And I guess I've sort of learned over the years how important it is to not hold yourself to unrealistic expectations. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going to be 100 in one place, you're not going to be 100 in another. But you can divide up your time in your day. So, you can be, you know, at the office, you should be at the office, you know, and do the thing. And then when you need to be on a call for your kid, you are present in that moment. Like, there's ways to make the time meaningful, even if you're not spending all of your time doing one thing or all of your time doing another.
Yeah.
So I think giving myself, having compassion, and then also knowing that, like, I'm such a perfectionist that, and I like obsess over every detail all the time. And I think of 2, 3, 4, 8 steps ahead on everything. And so I've had to, you know, be a little more gentle with my expectations of myself, because, you know, I don't expect anyone else to work as hard as me. And I would just sort of like bulldoze through life. But on the flip, it's not good for your soul to always do that, right? You have to like you have to create boundaries.
Was there a moment that you realized that was like oh my gosh, I have this realization?
You know, I guess I first acknowledged it when I was pregnant, because it was the first time in my life that I had to stop and slow down and like actually sleep, and all of that. And I had all these hormones that I, you know, never had, and I had emotions that I never had. And so it took me a year to like feel connected to myself again after I had Honor. And I think with Hayes and Haven, it took about a year, you know, for the hormones to like sort of,
they're crazy.
They're wild, right? Yeah. I mean, the sweats and the
Chills.
Paranoia and the mind racing, and, you know, you think something's going to happen, but it's not. I mean, I can't even tell you how many nights I would wake up several times just to like listen to my children breathe.
Right.
And I have like cameras on them. Like, what is going on? Like, they're fine. My parents did not have any of that stuff.
I know, that's it's so true. Like I say that to my mom all the time, and I do the same thing with Lila. I'm always like, is she okay? And I'm checking the monitor, and then, you know, all these monitors now have fancy things where it shows you like their heart rate and if there's movement, and
they have the little foot one, and
the little that one too, to teach that, you know, does the beats per minute. It's just so crazy, and there's so much. And there was definitely, I think of, you know, our parents when we were babies, and it's like there was a level of simplicity that all of this stuff is so amazing to have now, and great, of course, to be able to see that, you know, on a monitor if your child's moving or not. But then there's also the flip side of it, which is that there was just such a level of simplicity of like, if you can hear them, then you know to go in there. But yeah, I mean, I think that the whole, the mom guilt part of it, and then also just like the boundary aspect of, you know, is something that for me, watching you is such a fascinating part of all that you do, is where you come up with those boundaries, how you instill those boundaries. So someone's not, you know, thinking that you're going to be answering emails at 10 o'clock at night, like how that works. And then also, of course, you know, being present in your marriage, your kids, your friends, there's like a lot of different things that all factor into this guilt feeling.
Yeah, I'm consistently terrible with being on time, consistently terrible with emails, and consistently terrible with texting. And so there's no bar.
at least you're aware.
Great, because the expectation is really, really low, and people are usually surprised if I get back to them within any reasonable amount of time. I think because I do so many things, and I am, you know, I have meetings, right? I have my meetings and I do the meetings, and if it's in the schedule. But I think because I was always like told what time to show up to work, and I was given like, this is what you're doing. That is a hard one for me to break, because I've been acting since I was 12. So it was like, this is your call time. This is what you're going to do. These are your lines. This is when you're going to have lunch. This is when you're done. Okay. And then you have to show up the next day, and this is the expectation. So I kind of still operate that way. I don't know if it's like that healthy, but I would say that the expectation on me, you know, in a lot of ways. But then on the flip, I also like that then allows me to like have the space to think and to like dream and think of stuff and create and creatively solve problems as well, because I'm not so like going through the motions of this is how it needs to be done. I can sort of like push outside the box a bit. And then I would say, you know, for the kids, I realized after I had Hayes just how important it is to have weekends. You know, that was like, okay, if I'm going to be productive and go to work and do all of that, I just need some time with the family. And I also just need a break for my brain. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're starting a business and even running a business, every day is just, it's an endless stream of challenges that you're solving every day. That's all it really is. Mm-hmm. It's like, how can we solve this? How can we solve this? How can we solve this? How can we do this better? How can you do this better? It's like this constant thing. So your work will never be done. You can work 24/7 and you will never tackle it. And so just having, like, for me, when I felt comfortable that like everyone's going to wake up on Monday, it's still going to be there. So I shut off from like Friday to, you know, I have the weekends, and like Friday night to Monday, that's my time with the family, you know. Right. But I didn't start doing that until I had Hayes. Yeah. Otherwise I was 100% working 7 days a week. And I'm the wackadoo that wakes up at 2 in the morning and writes emails, because my brain is like, Baba, and I'm like, oh, that thing, writing email.
Forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband, he would tell me for like 5 years, he was like, please don't write it. Please don't write the email. Like, wait, like put it in drafts. You know, you may not mean this in the morning, whatever. And then, so I was like trying to do that, and then it just wouldn't happen. And then I would get irritated. So then I'm like, I'm just going to write the emails and ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. This has been amazing. I'm so grateful that you took the time to do this. I'm learning so much, and as always,
I don't know. I think you're like, you're probably looking at me like you're the most dysfunctional person on the
No, I mean, this is, oh my God.
You feel so organized and so together, and I'm
not at all. I mean, I have an almost 1-year-old. You've been doing this for much longer than me, and have a plethora of things to be going on in your life. And I am, all of this information to me is amazing and so great to hear, because I think it's just real and it's honest. And you look at, a lot of the time, I think people, including myself, you look at you and, you know, you see all that you've accomplished and also your beautiful family, and you're like, oh, that seems like it's so easy and everything is so put together. And then you hear that it's like, you know, it comes with challenges, and it's amazing to be a mom and to be, you know, creating a business and have a marriage and have friends. But it does come with, you know, the idea of needing to be gentle with yourself in the journey of learning how to do it and getting into a groove with it. And I think that that's like the biggest thing, I think, so far that I've learned just in my almost 1 year of motherhood, but also just from other moms, is this realization of, you know, not needing to be so hard on yourself, because if you're a half an hour late, like pre-children, it's like you had your life one way, and it's scary to think that your life can't go back to the way that you had before. But it's also beautiful to think that there are changes that you can make in your life moving forward. And that is giving yourself more grace, being more gentle, you know, sifting out things that no longer serve you, and figuring out what your life, like where you want to spend your time. And that's, especially this past year, I feel like that's what has taught so many of us, is like how we want to live our lives and who we want to be spending time with. So everything that you've said to me is like so refreshing to hear, and so interesting, you know, as a new mom myself, to just learn from someone like you, and just to hear the real honest parts of it, and to know that it's not all perfect. It's, you know, it has its moments, and that's the best thing to hear.
Yeah. And also, like, you're never going to leave the house in 15 minutes ever again.
No, that I learned very quickly.
It's going to take 45 minutes to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You're going to run in and out of the house several times because you forgot something. And then explosion, and then a meltdown, and then a this, and then a that. I mean, it's just, and so, like, I feel like Cash for a while was like in denial that we couldn't leave the house in 15 minutes. And he would then he just like unplugs and like goes on the couch. And then I'm left with those three like lunatics that are all like running in different directions and demanding different things. And so it's like, we got it down now, like leave snacks in the car, ready to go. Yeah. Like always have juice box. You can't get it for one, you got to get them for all. Yeah. And that, you know, and like need a change of clothes every time someone's going to puke. Like there's just like basics now we got. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, those are all the things that like I'm still learning, but the leaving the house in 15 minutes part, I learned very quickly, because before having my daughter, I was like, we're going to go, like, this is it. And then now it's like, you know, there's a lot of things to think about. The change of clothes thing is a whole ordeal. But yeah, but I mean, I love all of this. I think it was, everything that you said was amazing, and so great to hear. So thank you so much for doing this. And
thank you for having me.
I will talk to you very soon.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.